Andy, how's it going?
It's going well, Dan. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. So we are on episode 6 of About the Music, and it's been quite a run.
It has,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, just kind of talking about different things and in the songs. And so we're yet in a new location. So we keep, making some different choices. Why don't you tell the listeners and the viewers where we are?
New year, new location. And it feels like we're home. If you're
Right.
watching on video, we are in the fellowship hall here at Good Shepherd, and this is kind of the home of our praise service. And so in a normal year, we would be in here on the second and fourth Sundays of the month, and this is where the praise band would be, and it feels very comfortable being back up here on the stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And where we've been recording, of course, now those viewing, you can't see it on the angle, but so we're on the stage. Before the pandemic, we would record on the stage. Of course, we would play on the stage, but we have been recording actually using the stage for the drums, but using a large portion of this room with pipe and drape and all of that for the separation of the instruments. So we've had instruments separated by even significantly more than 6 feet.
Right.
It's more like 10 to 12
Yeah,
feet,
yeah.
for a lot of us. How have you been feeling about those recordings?
Oh, they've been wonderful. It's been so great being with those musicians, and I think the set lists that we've been putting together for these recording sessions have just been getting better and better, and I love seeing what you and Matt come up with for the sound and audio on that and the video, and so it's just been a real pleasure to be a part of that.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to have you and your wonderful guitar playing as well, on that stuff. So today we're going to talk about Forever Rain.
Yes.
And so we've recorded this twice. First time, was it like back in May or something? Or
Yeah,
June?
it's been a while.
It's been a while. And so since we've integrated the strings again into a lot of these sessions, I went ahead and wrote a string part for violin and cello, the way I've been doing on a lot of the newer stuff. And so that's been, impactful for a lot of these arrangements. Right? It's influenced kind of how things are going. And we also have, some activity going on with the drums now. We've got some different arrangement things going on with the energy of it. So that's been fun. But before I talk about some of the music, I saw the stuff that you wrote here in terms of notes. You've just got some amazing things to talk about. I'd love to hear about the message, the lyrics, the theology on this. What did you discover when you were researching this?
Yeah, so I did do a little bit of research and did some digging, and I was able to find an interview that Reuben Morgan gave. And Reuben Morgan was one of the Hillsong songwriters who penned this song, and he had a really good quote kind of summing up the message of this song. He said, "The message of this song is very confessional. Throughout the song, we declare who God is. You are good, you are love, you are light, you are hope, you are peace, you are joy, you are life." And at the same time, we combine that message of who God is with our reality. You are good when there's nothing good in me. I hope the song enlarges God in our view of him. We need to know that God is not diminished by our circumstances, doubts, or our response. I just thought that was so cool because if you look at the lyrics of this song, it is very confessional. It's a very kind of admitting some things to God. I'm admitting my shortcomings and failures, but we're glorifying God in all that he is. And so there's this really cool interplay that happens, this interplay between adoration and confession, and that happens in the verses there. So you have things like, you are good when I'm not good at all, when I've got no good in me whatsoever. And you are light when I'm closed in by darkness. You are peace when I'm crippled by fear. You are true when I'm lost, when I'm wandering. You are here when I'm broken and we're made whole by him. And I love this last one. You are God and I am not. So I'm letting go and giving you control. And so this really neat interplay, this juxtaposition that's happening in those verses right there.
I'm looking at that. So, when we sing this, something, and I'll kind of pivot from that,
Sure.
to something about the music and how it relates. So you are good, you are good. If you were to look at the sheet music for this, it's in the key of C, and the melody pivots between a C and a D. You've got two notes, you are good, but there's something that happens throughout the verses that I find very interesting, and one of those things is that occasionally it will go up to the fourth. So in the key of C, the F note is the fourth. Now, that's not wrong. However, it's considered a suspension. You can call it a mild dissonance to have the band playing C major chords, which is C, E, and G. For those of you wondering, he's on the piano, C, E, G. Now, that's not always voiced that way, but on a guitar, it's voiced a certain way. So you have the E natural note in the chord. So, most music theory textbooks and teachers will tell you, well, you can't do that. Like, don't put an F with the C chord. That's because that's technically wrong. And the thing is, wrong is a weird word with music. Yeah, I'm a jazz musician also, and I know that there's a lot of nuance in what you can do and get away with in music. Well, here we're singing, you are good when there's nothing good in me. So it's that F, nothing good, and that is rubbing against the harmony. And so that creates a dissonance that is worth mentioning. The dissonance is uncertainty. It's a little bit of agitation. Yeah. It's not relaxed, right?
It fits with that darkness.
Exactly.
That we're singing there.
Exactly, right? So now this isn't true for the entire verse 1, 2, 3, but in many of the spots where nothing good in me, my fear is crippling, words will ever say, in my wandering. So again, not all, but many of the spots, you have this kind of agitation going on in the melody. And then when you get to you are joy, or you are here, all of a sudden the melody hits the major third. Now it's, instead of you are good when there's nothing good in me, it's you are joy. All of a sudden you hit this natural third, which is really what we've been waiting for since the beginning of the melody. And it's worth noting that major third only happens as a passing tone in verse 1. And then it actually happens directly on beat 1, the strong beats, beat 1 and beat 3, on verse 2 and verse 3. And that is notable. Now, how much did the writers think about it like the way I just described it? I don't know, but to me, that's a very notable thing. In fact, when we first started doing the song, that is actually something that I remember mentioning in rehearsal.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, and thinking about, what does this mean for how we're going to land on that? Because you are joy. It's like beat 1 and 3. So anyway, that is something notable about that in terms of, the musical aspect of the coincidence of opposites, if you will. What did they? I think in Latin it's coincidentia possitorum. It's the idea, the idea of the coin, the two sides. So we do have these two sides that are going on in this song.
Yeah, I love that when that happens in these praise and worship songs, when the melody changes to match the emotion of the lyrics. And so when we get to joy, it's almost as a lifting. You are joy. And
it feels good, doesn't it?
And we're being filled with joy at that moment there. Yeah, it's just some really great moments there. And there's a lot of repetition in the lyrics. You are good, you are peace, and it's almost like this saying it again and meaning it, and then you get to this chorus, and it's very different than the verses. I'm calling this the prodigal chorus, because if you look at the lyrics of this chorus, they call to mind at least for me, they call to mind the story of the prodigal son from Luke chapter 15. And so the chorus goes, "Oh, I'm running to your arms. I'm running to your arms. The riches of your love will always be enough. Nothing compares to your embrace. Light of the world, forever reign. And in the story of the prodigal son, for those of you that are not familiar with it, it's a story that Jesus tells about these two sons and their father. And one day the younger son comes to his father and says, "Dad, I want my share of the inheritance, and I want it right now." Which, I mean, if you know how inheritance work, it doesn't work like that.
Of course.
Essentially, the younger son's coming to his dad and saying, "I wish you were dead because I want what's coming to me right now."
Yes.
And even crazier, the dad gives it to him. He gives him his share of the inheritance, and the younger son goes off, and it says that he blows all the money on wild living. And he gets to a point where he's got no money, he's got no friends, he's got no family, he's got nothing left to his name. And so he starts working at a pig farm, and he's working with these pigs, and he gets to the point, rock bottom, where he realizes even these pigs have something to eat, and I just long to eat what they're eating. And it's at that moment he realizes that maybe I can go back. Maybe I can go back to my father, not as a son, but as a servant. Maybe I can go back and get a job in my father's house just as a servant. And so he sucks it up and walks back to the house. And in the Bible, there's this great detail that says that when he was still a long ways away, the father came running towards him. And how great a picture is that the father not only welcomes him back, but was waiting for his return. And when he sees him, comes running. And I like to imagine that the son is kind of ashamed and feels guilty for what he's done, but also goes to embrace his father. And then the father comes to the son, embraces him, gives him this big hug. And I think it's in that moment that the son realizes that nothing else compares to that love that the Father has for me. And of course, this was a parable. It's a story that teaches a lesson. So Jesus is comparing the Father in this story to our Heavenly Father, who loves us so deeply and so dearly that he will welcome us back in, even if we're lost, even if we're wandering, because nothing ultimately compares to that Father's love. And so those are the words that we sing in that chorus there. Nothing compares to your embrace. There's nothing like being hugged by the Heavenly Father.
And just like I did when you talked about the lyrics for the verses, I'll mention something musical about that moment.
Yeah.
I'm running to your arms, I'm running to your arms. There's something that happens here. First of all, that line is repeated. I'm running to your arms, I'm running to your arms. Mm-hmm. It's repeated. Why? It's to really get that message across. Well, the chord changes, but it changes in a way that is, I'm going to just say it's somewhat unique in contemporary worship music. Because the first chord on O, I'm running to your arms, is a C chord, just like the verses. But then all of a sudden, it shifts to a G major triad over a C pedal. That is not regular stuff. That is not what we're used to hearing. It's also not what I'm going to call advanced harmony or anything like that, but it's whenever you have a pedal point, and there's a lot of classical music that has pedal points, it means that the bass note is not changing, but the chord is changing above it. And what happens is it's creating like an excitement, And now this is another thing. I'm pointing this out. I don't know if they were equating it that way. I can assure you that when I write music, I do think of things like that. Like if I want, the music to just give this feeling of anticipation and it's building and building, a lot of times I will use a pedal point for that.
Yeah.
And in this case, we're using the root, C, as the pedal point. I'm running to your arms, and then when it's repeated, I'm running to your arms, the repetition is over the new chord, over the pedal. So if you're listening on a piano, and your left hand play a C bass note, and then your right hand play a C chord, and then keep the bass where it is, and then change the chord to a G chord, and you'll hear what I'm talking about. This is that kind of suspenseful, energetic feeling, and then what happens is when the words get, the riches of your love will always be enough, there's a transition chord, the A minor to G, but then it lands on an F chord, which is the 4 chord. And the word enough is meaningful. The riches of your love will always be enough. Because the story you just told, I mean, obviously there was a lack going on.
The money wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough, right?
Right.
And now it is. And so the music is reflecting that too, because the melody is hitting a C, which is the tonic, but now this is the first time where you have an actual defined 4 chord sitting on a melody note in the whole tune, is in the middle of that chorus, and on a downbeat will always be enough right there on the downbeat. So from a musical perspective, I like to think that that's a powerful move.
Yeah.
To write that, to say, the word enough is going to land on beat 1, and it's going to land on the 5th measure, and it's going to land on this solid F chord.
Yeah.
And so that's a pretty distinctive aspect of this of the music in this piece that I never fail to notice it when we play it. It always feels good.
It's like definitive. This is enough.
Yes,
landing on it.
That's right, because there's a lot of other sections in this song that aren't that way. There's passing chords, A minor to G. There's slurs and ties, where there's not a lot of clarity. You just have a lot of over the bar line stuff across measures, but that's definitive. And so is "Oh, I'm running to your arms. I'm running to your arms. The riches of your love." Da 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 ba, da 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 da, da 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 da. That's a very precise, specific rhythm. So anyway, very characteristic of a particular style of writing music, and it works really well.
Yeah, we've talked about this in other episodes, but I want to talk about the bridge for a minute.
Yeah.
When we get to the bridge is so simple lyrically. It's my heart will sing no other name, Jesus, Jesus. And we just repeat that over and over. I think we may do it 4 times. And can you talk a little bit about the dynamics of that and then how that led into that last chorus then?
Right, because the last chorus after that, we get softer, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's this buildup happening. So, right, the bridge is 4 measures long, except it's 4 times 4, so it's 16, right? And so I'm gonna relate what I think about with something like this. The word that comes to mind is mantra. So if we say something and we repeat it. We talked about repeating and running to your arms, right? Now I think I see this as kind of a mantra. My heart will sing no other name, Jesus, Jesus. It's like something you say. Imagine that you're in prayer, and that is something that you're repeating to yourself over and over again. I'm not suggesting that that's the only thing somebody should do in prayer, but maybe that's something somebody might do. Like when people meditate, sometimes they will have something that they say or a sound they make or something like that. So if that's happening and it's repeating, it's certainly not a bad idea, and in fact a very good idea, arranging-wise, to create what I think would be a nice build, because we kind of get down to very bare minimum music there. And you just hear the lead vocal singing this line, everybody singing along, and then all of a sudden things start to come in. So the strings come in a little bit, the cello gets a little more active, the rhythms of the drums get a little more active, the piano, the guitar, everything gets more active, and so that's my answer to what you just asked me. Is you build by slowly adding in instruments, and you do it, I'm going to use the word organically. Like I never like to say, Andy, lay out here and just start playing. I just think, hey, let's just soften it up and let's feel it. So if we recorded it again, we'd do it a little differently. But one thing I did do is, when you listen to the recording that's going to be after this, you'll notice at the end of the bridge, after the last time we say Jesus, so there's 2 measures of F all of a sudden. So it's like 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, actually plus 6, right? So 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 6. So the last setting of 4 bars has an extra 2 measures. So you're going to hear the strings there. They go ba da da da. I'm not singing the right notes, but they're lowering in half notes, right? And you're going to hear I mixed them up there on purpose, so you would really hear them. I put them high in the mix, so you could really hear. That was Bruno and Marianne playing this. You'll really hear them coming down. So that's what I did with the dynamics. I built it up, and then I let the strings be the diminuendo. And then when we got to that final chorus, sorry, I moved closer to the mic here. When we got to that final chorus, well, not final, but the first chorus after the bridge, we sang it softly, and was it a cappella, Andy? Was it just voices? What were we doing there?
I think that initial O might have been a cappella there.
Right. So why would we do that? Why do you think that's effective to just do that with one of these choruses before the band kind of comes back in again?
From a lyrical standpoint, you're using this, like you said, as a mantra, as an anthem, as kind of this rallying cry. My heart will sing no other name, Jesus, Jesus. And from a theological standpoint, that's one of the best mantras we can do.
Yes.
That line in there really is straight from Scripture. In Acts chapter 4, verse 12, we have, salvation is found in no one else, for there is no other name under heaven given to mankind by which we must be saved. So we're singing this mantra over and over, Jesus, Jesus.
Yes.
And then it's almost like we get to the point where now we're just resting. Now we're just resting in his arms. We've called out to him, kind of going back to what I was saying at the beginning of this back and forth between adoration and confession. We've called out to him now. Now we're just resting in that embrace.
So it's funny. So, they could have said, "Oh, I'm resting in your arms." Sure. They could have sang that instead, right? Because of the nature of that, right? But it doesn't matter, because even if we're running metaphorically, it's now singing it at a lower volume and just at a quieter tone and vibe is giving us that feeling.
Yeah.
I can tell you, when we play it this way, to me, it often feels like the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And then of course the band comes back in, and then we take it to the very end. Question for you: when you are playing guitar on this particular song, what are some things that you're doing that you feel are maybe unique to this song? Is there voicing or strumming patterns that you're doing that are?
I can think of the one thing in the chorus that we were talking about, those hits, when it says,
"Oh yes,
nothing compares to your embrace." And so when we're playing with a band, trying to line up those hits with that, and it takes a little bit different strumming pattern than what I would normally do to make those hits happen.
You have to adjust that, right?
Yeah.
And so when you listen, that's a good point, Andy. That's something that I integrated early on, because the melody is it's enough, nothing compares to your embrace. There's this thing where we're hitting on the second eighth note of beat 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, right? And the thing is there's a chord that on the music hits on the downbeat of the next measure, but whenever you have a musical situation like this, if everybody's singing on the end of 4, and then you have a bunch of chord players playing on beat 1, you get this flammy sound, ba,
right.
Ba, right, ba, ba. And it can sound, I'll use just the colloquial term, like untight. It's just not, it just has a distracting flavor to it. So yeah, that's right. The idea is to have the drums, the bass, the piano, everybody's going to play F, nothing come A to G to F, light of the A to G to F, right? We all do that together.
Right.
And we emphasize world, rain, right? And we emphasize with the chorus. So you're doing that when you're strumming, right? Do you have to change the way you're?
I do, because that's
hand?
different than with what I would be doing on the verses that are very just kind of straightforward, and kind of just keeping the rhythm going on the chorus or on the verses there. So it just adds an element of interest, I think, to the chorus, and just more power behind those lyrics.
Definitely more power, and it's something that we don't do very often. And so Now you had a few more. Before we end this segment, I just want to say, is there anything more that you want to talk about in terms of the scripture references?
Yeah, I think let's talk about the title itself.
Great, yeah.
Forever Reign, and where we hear something like that in Scripture. I pulled out a couple places. Lamentations chapter 5, verse 19 says, "You, O Lord, reign forever. Your throne endures from generation to generation." Just this very powerful statement of adoration and glorifying God, but reigning forever, and this idea of him on his throne, ruling forever. And we've that was similar to "There is a King."
Yes.
We kind of get that same that kingly image right there. But then also in Psalm chapter 96, verses 9 to 10, it says this: "Worship the Lord in all his holy splendor. Let all the earth tremble before him." And then hear this part, verse 10. "Tell all the nations the Lord reigns." And so I love the picture that paints there of kind of us in our corporate worship, as a church, we're worshiping the Lord in all his holy splendor. And then the command after that, "Now tell all the nations the Lord reigns." So it's just this reminder that when we worship God, don't just keep it here among us. Go out and tell the nations. Go out and share that love with others. What does that look like for us today, in 2021? I think it could look as something as simple as sharing our virtual worship service videos.
I agree.
Passing that along to friend and tagging someone in a post. And I think sometimes we get stuck on this idea that we have to have all the right words and have everything figured out, and in order to be able to tell others about our relationship with Christ. And I don't think that's it at all. I think it's just sharing what you know and sharing what you love about your relationship with God can be one of the most powerful witnesses we have.
And I agree. And we're lucky. We're so lucky that we have the access to technology.
Right.
That we do to do that. I mean, I'm sure I'm not alone in, how often it occurs to me, imagine like back in 1985 or something
Right.
like that, for those of us that were around 1985, but who could imagine that we would be able to communicate, the way we do?
Yeah.
It's amazing. So I love that. Well, so Andy, thanks for another, fun session talking about this.
These are so great, Dan. I love doing this.
Yeah, it's so much fun, right? And for those listening, so we have recorded a new batch of music, and we have some new things in store, and it looks like we're going to be doing strings for a little while, right?
Yeah.
That's become a lot of fun, and it's fun to kind of integrate the cello and the violin with the contemporary worship style that we're doing. Please enjoy our latest rendition of Forever Reign, and please have a great rest of your day. Thanks.
Okay.
Nothing good in me. You are love on display for all to see. You are light when the darkness closes in. You are hope, you have covered all my sin. You are peace when my fear is crippling. You are true, even in my wandering. You are joy, you're the reason that I sing. My heart will sing no other name. Jesus, Jesus. My heart will sing no other name. Jesus, Jesus. My heart will sing no other name. Jesus, Jesus. My heart will sing no other name. Jesus, Jesus. Oh, I'm running to your arms. I'm running to your arms. The riches of your love will always be enough. Nothing can